It's 5:34. Let's call the meeting to order unless it was already done.
It hasn't already been done.
Okay. And the first item on the agenda was the treasurer's report. Brian, do you want to do that?
Approval of minutes, Catherine. Catherine,
Yeah?
should be the approval of the minutes first.
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. Maybe you should just do it anyway. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes?
Right?
Yes.
Did
Yes.
anyone have any questions?
No,
Okay, good job, Mike. Who's going to do them this time? Gina's not on the call again.
We got Grace here helping us out.
Okay. So you've been volunteered, Grace. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
I,
And I vote aye, so it's unanimous. Okay. Now the treasurer's report.
How do I share this? Oh, you have to sign into the meeting first. Oh, shoot. Invite. Should be if you just go to the town's website and find the agenda. Get you there. Yeah. Often guest? Yeah. Click that. I don't know if that carries out. It's almost automatic. There you go. Now you're in. Now go to the home. Now go to the Upton home page. Some agendas right here. Or show them what's up. First one, yeah. Click on to join the meeting. Open.
sounds of someone's home.
Yeah, that's fine. If you're gonna just be sharing with it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There you go. You're in. Then you can just mute. Yes. There you go. Yeah. You're not sharing yet. Go back to Teams. You tag screen. Share. Now go down to it. Go back to Teams.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh,
There we
good
go.
job, Brian. I'm sure you did. I cannot read it. I'm sure you did a fabulous job. Rachel.
You can go down here and
From my older eyes. Oops.
I would use the Oh, you're trying to do
Well,
it?
how do you get
Try
a
to
cell
close
on
these
the side?
windows, yeah.
Are you in PowerPoint?
Yes.
Or start show? Let's look on this button.
It's in the bottom, or you could put in.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Got it. Good job.
You're indispensable. All right. So I just want to first point out that this has not been reviewed with the town accountant, but it's based upon the knowledge that I have and primarily the results of the last special town meeting. So the first part, we've increased our assets by $100,000 due to Article 10, the last special town meeting. So $100,000 is now in our account. We also have $15,000, and that $15,000 was Article 12. And that's particularly for, or specifically for, the ability to do the action plan. Whereas the first one, we have identified likely uses, and that's heavily geared towards 28 Hartford Ave North, but it's not specifically called out in that article. We also have the third line item you're seeing, $21,651. That's what we've been showing for the last couple of months. So with those three items, we have a total available to us of $136,000, almost $137,000. That's what we have as our assets. It's also important mentioning Note A, which I'm hiding, that there's also other funds in the CPC back in October 23rd of $882,000. So just want to keep that in everyone's mind. They're not ours, but they are the CPC funds related to and reserved for community housing. Okay, there's like, that's something that as we identify projects, it's a potential source to use. In the last article under property, we have 28 Hartford Ave North, as we've been showing for the last couple of months. And hopefully tonight we'll have some further, we'll have some further discussion about that property. Any questions? Good. Jump right over it. There is right in the middle, there is an entry for $7,518. And that's what we had talked about last meeting. This is not ours, and we as a team have agreed that it is not ours, and we want to return to the CPC. And just, I'm not familiar with the mechanism to do so. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, though, you got to talk to Kenny.
Yeah, we just haven't. I mean, it's that, and we should also just touch base with Paul Carey, that the CPC probably on their own vote should probably identify the funds as going back into the affordable housing bucket.
Okay.
I did see a note. Kathy and Paul had some emails on that.
Yeah.
And Paul just asked us to reach out to, or someone to reach out to Kenny.
Yeah.
To make that request and have it happen. Kathy, anything further on that last item of $7,518 and Paul's comments?
No, I mean, basically it is how it was just explained is Paul doesn't do it. It's something that we have to talk, or the town has to talk to Kenny about. And,
Right.
And they will, initiate the transfer back. At least that's what Paul said. I think this is new territory for everybody.
Through the chair, and as Joe suggested, but I'll still reach out to Paul to have them as the CPC at probably their January meeting, just formally accept that money, were it, or in anticipation of it to be transferred. Does that sound
I mean,
appropriate?
I'll email Paul and Kenny and you Kathy, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I think what needs to happen is the CPC needs to vote to determine that the project is basically closed. That the approval that was granted has now expired and is formally requesting the town accountant to return those funds to the housing bucket. And Kenny needs something in writing. So I think that's how it works. It would probably, I'll just send an email to all four of us.
Yeah.
Just to confirm that we're all on the same page. That way at the next CPC meeting, they can have it on the agenda, take that formal action, because if there's, say, $100 left from a CPC project, the CPC should be able to vote to basically close out that project.
Yeah.
So
Good.
a vote won't be needed from us to authorize, correct?
Now,
Okay.
that's all I have.
Great job as always, Brian.
Any questions of Brian? Okay. Town report and update. Who is that, Joe, or is that Mike?
I was just gonna say, Kathy, I didn't have anything prepared for tonight. But if there's any questions about ongoing projects and things, I can give folks updates. I'll ask Joe if he had anything to offer.
No, I mean, sorry, when maybe I misunderstood, was it annual report as in like just, or was the
Just
report
ongoing
just?
reports.
I mean, the only thing is that, from a month ago, we did request from Pat for names of companies for
Oh, right.
demolition. And that he did reach out to 3. Amy heard back from 1, and we're trying to nail down a time to inspect 28, Hartford Ave North for that demo company to then come visit the site and prepare a quote. So that's the only, I think the only things really outstanding.
Yeah, as far as the sport's concerned, yeah.
Yeah, and then Thursday is the meeting, but I think we're gonna, the meeting with CMRPC, but that might be agenda item.
Yeah.
So,
So what was that last one about the CMRPC, that the staffing for fiscal 25?
since she's on the screen, I'm assuming
Oh, okay.
that's gonna be.
Just see the whole talk about it. Great.
And that's sort of what I was thinking is the issues that I think that we discussed the other day are all listed as agenda items. So, do we want to, does anyone have any, I mean, you can ask questions at the end too, but does anyone have any specific questions to ask of Joe or Mike or Grace?
Does it, through the chair, is it appropriate to ask for an update on property by Pickering? Is there any further?
Oh,
update
sure.
on that?
Yeah, I mean, the next meeting on that will be, and that's 47 Main Street, the comprehensive permit before the zoning board appeals currently. No update of it really, other than the fact that it'll be on, the next meeting is next Wednesday, the 20th. And that meeting will be mostly discussing civil engineering and stormwater reviews from the peer review.
So that's between Kevin Lovisser and the planning board.
In the zoning board, so our town's peer review, Stan Tech will be presenting their findings on their review of what the applicant had submitted as far as their stormwater reports and beginning to get into civil engineering and design review.
I should think Sunday's Red Rain might have been quite interesting.
Oh, yeah.
There was a meeting, was there not, in November, which was after our last meeting,
What was that?
to
Yeah.
discuss traffic. So they've had they've had the
Yeah.
first meeting, I think was a general meeting. And the second one was on traffic, which it was on the 15th, November 15th, because I wasn't able to make it. And then, so they're doing traffic, and the next is civil and stormwater, and that's next week. So.
Exactly, and there wasn't, I mean, in my opinion, there wasn't much that came out of the traffic discussion as far as follow-up items. The only major outstanding thing with that was the applicant was going to provide an addendum to their traffic study that includes Fisk and Maine. So that'll be presented probably sometime, I would guess, in February, and it'll be reviewed then.
I understand there was a meeting between the butters and Kevin last week as well.
I don't have, yeah,
I don't know.
I wasn't a part of that, so I don't know.
I don't know, it's over at the library. I'll ask my daughter. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So in general, just to recap, technically they have 6 months from when the request goes into when they wrap up, correct?
Yeah, from date of the application submitted, they have. Yeah, I think the timeline is roughly 6 months, from when the zoning board would have to have a decision, filed, for that application. So yeah, which
And
is
that's-
again,
yeah,
sometime around March and April.
Okay, that's unless the extension is granted
Correct.
by the developer, okay. Okay. Any other questions of the town before we get to the update and RFP review of 28 Hartford Avenue North?
Yeah, Kathy, you had discussion of inclusionary zoning on there first. Did you want to?
Oh, okay.
Or do you
Okay,
want
yeah,
that?
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do that one first. Just by way of background, there's a lot of, balls in the air at the same time. And one of the things that I've discussed, and I've discussed it with you and the planning board, and is to get a zoning bylaw change on the agenda for the Springtown meeting for inclusionary zoning. And we also had an accessory dwelling bylaw. I don't know if we were planning to do both of those at the same time or not. But basically what that does is it requires, it puts into place under the bylaws, under the subdivision plans, if you're putting in for every 6 houses you build, you have to put one affordable in. So right now, we're dealing with two things. We're dealing with trying to fix a deficit, and we're also trying to deal with, not enabling that deficit to grow. This doesn't impact, somebody who builds a house. You have to be building 6 or more houses. So for every 6 you build, I think we can do it. We could do for every 6 you build, you have to put 2 in. We could do it whatever we wanted to, but it has to pass legal muster and it has to make sense. So, it was my hope to get that on the town meeting warrant for the upcoming meeting. That warrant is open and it closes on January 26th, I think. So.
It's either that- But yeah, about them.
Okay. So let's just open discussion on it. I'll mute myself again.
Kathy, I'll just offer through the chair that I had reached out to Mark Mastriani of Pulte Homes and it started to engage him about the discussion to get some insight from a developer's perspective on those things. And he said he seems enthusiastic, I'll say, about the potential for implementation for that here in Upton. And commented to the extent of like 10% is reasonable and doable, and they're happy to provide that as a for future developments. Sort of like up to 13% maybe, but anything beyond that for single family homes, what the types of things that they do is maybe not. It just starts pushing the envelope a little bit and really starts calling into question feasibility of proposed developments. And when you start doing that, and you risk, accidentally and artificially inflating prices of market rate as well. So it's a balancing act. But he offered. I was going to touch base with him again in the new year, and he offered to come to the planning board to discuss in a bit more detail. So I don't want to speak too much more for him, more than I already have tonight.
Interesting view. One that wasn't expected.
Yeah. So many other towns are, sorry, Judy, so many other towns are doing it now. So I feel like it's becoming the expectation from a lot of these larger firms that are accustomed to dealing with these sorts of.
Built up to Ridge, didn't they?
Yes.
And they have affordable houses up there, I know they do.
Oh.
So it's something that they are used to doing, nothing new to.
That's good.
So that was all I had to offer on that end of it.
Are they planning to build anywhere else in town? Do you know?
Not currently.
So the other thing attached to this conversation was the accessory dwelling bylaw change. I may be wrong, but I thought we were going to try to hold that one off until the fall town meeting, or do we talk about getting them both through at the same time?
That's probably a conversation we should have with planning board, right, Kathy? As far as whether or not the planning board want to take action on that. I mean, obviously, I'm here to, and Grace as well, to assist with getting language forward for consideration. But it's whatever the pleasure of the boards are with that.
I mean, currently, what the requirement is Upton does not allow accessory dwellings, and correct me if my language is wrong, except for by special permit from the zoning board, correct? And so
Correct.
everything has to go.
Any and all.
Yeah,
Any and all accessory apartments is what we call them here locally.
Yeah.
They take on language per different community. ADU, accessory dwelling unit, seems to be the overarching term that's pretty much used for this. Yeah, we only allow with a maximum of, I think, 1,000 square feet, which is pretty large. Maximum of 1,000 square feet with a couple other additions, approvable by special permit through the zoning board. I've yet to see the zoning board deny one of those applications, except for in an instance where what was proposed didn't conform to what the bylaw stated needed to be conformed with regard to the accessory apartment. So it was denied. And then the person came back with an updated revised application, then conforming to the bylaw, and it was approved. So
I think they have to be physically connected in some way, the way it's written now. Oh, yeah, the way it's written now.
Yep,
And
physically connected, and technically somebody has to be living in there that's, I think, related to the homeowner. And it's,
Yeah,
yeah, because they're restricted.
right. But I also think like this one that just went up on Warren Street, and I think they sort of just did an awning between the two. Because I think there has to be some not only relational relationship, but there has to be a physical connectivity between the main unit and the accessory unit.
That's true.
Well, can I ask a question through the chair? I mean, I don't know how much influence we have on what gets put onto the town warrant, onto the warrant with these issues, whether that's the planning board or us. But my question is, which is more feasible to get through town meeting in May? The ADU suggestion or the inclusionary zoning bylaw?
Yeah.
Does it make any difference?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
I mean, my opinion, and it's just me, I could be totally wrong, is that there is a mood in Upton right now to support this type of stuff, because I think folks in Upton have finally gotten slapped upside the head about the real risk without meeting, I think they're starting to understand affordable housing, they're starting to understand 40B. And so I think that, folks will just generally be out there and they'll say, of course, if, 6 units comes out. So I do think it's salable to town meeting if we message it right.
Both of them?
The way that it works is that the planning board would be the one to present. Excuse me. But there'd be a public hearing held on it. And
Do you mean both proposals, or do you mean both of these proposals? Because it's two separate things, isn't it? The ADU and the inclusionary zoning.
yeah, I mean, I think there'd be public appetite for both,
Okay.
but I just don't know if it's too heavy of a lift for the Springtown meeting. So I'm going to mute myself and I'll defer to Joe and Mike on that. That was just my opinion.
I would say, again, it's whatever the planning board wants to do. I would say just from the little bit of experience I have with this, that and judging the mood of I'll say the town, but it's really the folks that I've spoken with about inclusionary zonings, that I wouldn't be surprised if there is a bit of an appetite for inclusionary zoning. You'd have an easier time explaining that at town meeting, especially from the perspective of a looming 40B just down the street. you get to easily make the argument of this helps us get to 10% safe harbor, so we can, more readily engage in negotiations when 40Bs come knocking on the town's door. So, that's an easier sell, I would imagine, and it's something that is, the onus is put on new development. It's not an onus that's put on existing homeowners and existing developments, right? So there's that. Accessory dwelling units, a little bit of a more difficult sell, I think, in my opinion. I mean, I threw in the tidbit about zoning board and how they've been treating those in the past. Just for a bit of recognition on how those have gone. But really, I would expect hesitancy on the side of folks hearing about ADUs for the first time, and the impact that would have on their existing neighborhood, and the change in character and traffic and loss of privacy. These are all things I've definitely heard before when this discussion has come up. So that isn't to say that you can't try to tackle them at the same time. I'm just, if you were to go for a low hanging fruit, probably inclusionary zoning.
Isn't the state, are they just talking about ADUs, or have they decided to move forward and make it by right that all towns?
Yeah, that's a good point too, through the chair. And Kathy, I think you had sent this around a while back, was a statement from the governor's office, the administration putting us all on notice about ADUs, with the potential for new legislation, but nothing is
new. Yeah. Okay.
Nothing has come out formally, so I don't know what holding pattern as far as if that's concerned. If they ever do anything with it, I don't know. ADUs definitely have been considered by a lot of state governments over the last. Maybe just see if I can has more information regarding this than I do. I think California made them, took some sort of legislative action regarding ADUs on the state level. Rhode Island did very recently as well. So it's definitely something that's coming into a common practice.
Yeah, it's
And just-
coming more into common practice, but it's sort of like, it's more of like, yeah, it goes by like inclusionary zoning more than anything right now, unfortunately for Massachusetts, but it should be there, in my opinion, because it's just a really good way if you have a single family house with like a half an acre to increase just housing in general for that area. So hopefully Massachusetts makes some progress on that. But yeah, I've recently heard about the Rhode Island one as well.
I would just add that I think it's always beneficial to have those initial discussions with the planning board as far as identifying the temperature, and if that's something that then there's support, even if you're working towards it and it doesn't get submitted, then at least it's momentum for special town meeting. But if there's also the feeling that there may be a direction to the state, that may be something that then at least you can get a head start and then see where the state comes out through the next legislative session and either come forward or not. Inclusionary zoning, I've not heard of any sort of mandatory look at doing that on a state legislative level. So that at least seems something that would be easy, and I think easier to sell at town meeting.
Yeah. And one more thing through the chair. A while back, I did take the temperature of the zoning board regarding accessory dwelling units, making some version of them by right in town, and they were pretty supportive of it. And I think, again, given their practice and how they've treated them in the past. But then they kind of came to the same conclusion of, oh, well, if the state is looking to take action on this, why don't we hold off recommending anything to the planning board at this time?
Any other comments on this?
No.
Okay. Then the next item for the discussion is update and RFP review of 28 Hartford Avenue North. As folks know, this has been a priority of ours, is just getting this out there so we can start looking at what to do with the property and get it off our books. So Mike, do you want to start it?
Yeah, through the chair, Jeannie and I, went through the previous RFP and, made some changes, on it, language and such. I think I think the biggest change we made or of a substantial, change was the fact that I think I went through there and we took out language that restricted proposals to be only 2 units. And basically putting it on to the respondents to, provide the trust of your bid as to what what you can do with this property and what you would like to do with this property while pursuing, affordable units on it. So that was the biggest change because the previous iteration of it just said, 2 units, duplex, affordable. And it said, provide us that proposal, and we'll evaluate it. So just to, really sum it up. But that was the biggest thing. And I obviously went through there and just altered dates because everything was, 6 years old as far as dates were concerned. And so, but those will be updated, obviously, if we were to go live with this anyway. That was really the biggest change.
Tidied up some of the language as well.
Yeah.
But
Other than that, it's pretty much the same exact document that went out last time. The question I think that remains for this, for the trust to answer is, do you want to proceed with this as an RFP for affordable units? Or are you more interested in just disposing of the property to dispose of the liability of having this property?
Okay, why don't I interject with that first, because that was something that I've been pushing for. Because of the sort of not failure, but because of the limited appeal of such a small site for affordable housing last time, I thought that my hope was that we could remove that position, that provision requiring it be used for affordable housing. But of course, affordable housing, reuse for affordable housing would be I don't know if we do it in the selection criteria or what, but there'd be a preference for affordable housing. Last time, again, there was one applicant, and it's my understanding that the town would have had to come up with, some additional funds besides what it's already come up with in order to make that work. So, the model that was presented, I'm not confident that it would be workable in Upton. So what I was hoping to do was to just remove that that provision, make it again, a preference, either through the selection criteria or explicitly in the RFP. And then if instead someone pays $100,000 for the property, or this was something I was enlightened to at our last meeting, or $180,000 for the property, that money would go into the Affordable Housing Trust for use for affordable housing. So it's not like it would be at a loss for us. It's just we could use it somewhere where it might be, where it probably could be more useful because it would help us develop a critical mass. Something that Joe and Mike pointed out when we had this discussion was there is a small inconvenient fact in that because the Affordable Housing Trust paid a significant amount of money to purchase this lot and have paid, for insurance and that type of thing, is that any proposal for a non-affordable house use would have to be at or greater than the investment we put in it. Because otherwise, what I was told is that would be a misuse of public funds. But I still figure it'd be worth a try.
I think that to answer that question, what we want to do, I think we first have to answer what we discussed a couple weeks ago, Joe. What are we allowed to do? Does it have to be affordable? And there's a question that we had to reach out to the town council. Or because the article, I don't think specifically said, there's a transfer to us, but the grant may have said something. We don't know the status of that grant was executed or not. So that, I think we have to answer first to know whether we can put this as preference. I personally would like to do it as a preference. If we could get affordable housing out of it, that'd be great. If we can't, though, we want to get rid of it. I also see, though, the way this is written is that we are going to demolish and clear the site. So that's our number one urgent matter, is to make that property safe. And we're planning to do that whichever way we go. So I'm glad with that.
So one, I think it would be appropriate just to sort of in the near final draft of the RFP that has some sort of preference to then send that to town council. So not only are they reviewing the RFP, but then we can pose that question. And especially if then we are using affordable housing trust funds, thereby CPC funds to clean up the site, that reconciliation in if the property gets used and a request for purchase is for non-affordable, we would probably have to pay back all of those. So not only the removal of the site, but then also the acquisition costs. So using the RFP to then ask town council of those questions may be the easiest way to do it. Because what has to be in here, because if you allow, here's option one we're encouraging, and then option two will entertain for purchase, market rate, real estate transaction for non-affordable purchases, we have to establish what that minimum amount would be. Because if we clean the site using the remaining $20,000 that's left from CPC funds and it is not for affordable, I think then that has to be somehow reconciled back. And that would be an easy mechanism for then town council to not only answer that question, but then also recommend how to word it in a way that then is legally appropriate.
So I have a couple of questions through the chair. First of all, when the site has been cleared, the house demolished and the site cleared, is it then deemed safe? Because it's not safe right now, right?
Correct.
But once it's been demolished, it's then deemed safe? Is that a reasonable assumption?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. So that's number one. That's got to happen before anything else happens, right? As far as making affordable housing an option on the RFP, I have to say I'm diametrically opposed to that. We purchased this property with the intention of building affordable housing, and I understand that we only got one response to the RFP, and then we had COVID and all the rest of it. But from my perspective, I read the email from the abutter, and it had lots of red flags. I'm sorry, I don't know if he's listening, but it had a lot of red flags in it, including we don't have control about what happens there. We've heard this anytime you try to do this kind of project, you tend to hear this. So if we don't build affordable housing on there, if we just say, okay, you can buy the lot, then we've then got to start all over again, identifying another place that we might be able to build affordable housing, going through the same stuff. We have a piece of property that's, in my view anyway, ideal for what we're trying to do. If we give this up, we're starting right the way back at square one again. And we're just saying to abutters, if you object, we'll let you buy the land. I understand a desire to get out of the property and move on. But it goes against frankly, it goes against what I believe in.
Jeannie, I don't think,
that.
I think we're on the same page here in that the preference is affordable housing. We want to sell it for affordable housing. Then the question is, what if no one proposes, or what if the proposal that comes in is not realistic, is not doable? Do we just hold on to it?
Why don't we do that first? Why don't we put it out affordable housing, give ourselves a time frame, and if it doesn't work, then we move to plan B.
Yeah, can I say something here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I actually have two questions. Wouldn't the value of the property have gone up in 10 years, for one thing? And the second thing is, I have to say on this one, I'm with Jeannie. I feel really that it was bought for affordable housing. Let's get something up.
Is that Maureen on?
Hmm?
Somebody go down.
But what if we can't, Ann?
Well, then if you
Hold
can't, then go from there, I guess.
Because that's what we
Like,
tried.
give it a
before.
go at least, you know?
Yeah.
The person
So,
logged in is,
That's how I feel, that's all. Yeah.
hold on, through the chair. The person logged in is Ann. Maureen, is that you?
This is Ian Bedrisky. Ian,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
I don't think Maureen's on.
Oh,
I
okay.
have to type out my name the next time, but you wouldn't know.
Sorry.
to-
I thought you were one of our trust members who wasn't, who was not.
Yeah.
That's my apologies.
So
Yeah,
it's just,
we had a nice sidebar conversation before we went public, so we all
Yeah.
had a chance to chat amongst ourselves.
And what was your last name again?
Bedrisky.
Drisky. Okay.
Have you
See,
seen?
that's spelled.
I'll spell it out the next time, but, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
So what about hasn't the value of the property gone up?
Probably
Just
not.
the land, just the
No,
land must be
I mean,
worth more.
in my humble opinion,
Yeah,
and from what I've heard from other people, is we greatly overpaid for it to start with.
okay,
And what we have now is a piece of land with a building on it, a small piece of land that doesn't meet, I mean, it's, you can't build like multiple houses on it
Yeah.
unless you're doing like a friendly 40B or something like that, which I think was what was proposed by Habitat. And with all the money that's been invested in it, including, so we paid 150. I think you were the one that pointed this out. I think by the end of the day, our investment was what, 165. And then if
Right.
we're throwing in the insurance and the cost of demolition, that's probably going to go up to about 230. That the chances are we're going to have to recoup anyway from anybody who wants to develop it as privately. And so I think we're all in agreement that. And thank you, by the way, Ann. I kept meaning to send you a thank you note, and I never did.
you're welcome, I was happy to do
Yeah,
it.
now you're here, so I can say it verbally.
Yeah, okay.
Ann gave me a lot of insights into the history when I first started working on this stuff. But it's just in the for the sake of moving rapidly, is there a harm in putting them both on the same RFP as long as it's made clear that affordable housing is the desired option?
Yeah, I see what you say. Has anyone ever considered, like, what do they call them? The modular houses? Where that avoids the contractors and everybody else. You buy one of those, put it on. Does that make sense to anybody?
I mean, we've talked about that, in general for, there's something called the housing production plan. We talked a lot about modulars. The only problem with doing houses, I mean, Habitat, that was the sole proposer, won't do houses. I mean, no, I'm sorry, they don't do apartments. Right. And they were talking, I think, a duplex when they proposed.
Yeah.
That's what
But the problem is the site is so little that there's limited ability to to build anything beyond, if we're doing even modulars beyond 2 on that site.
Yeah.
Kathy, I don't know if you can see, but Josephus had her hand up.
Oh, sorry, no, I did not.
I mean, so my question is, what's left in the budget in the CPA fund, or what type of funding is going to be used to have these affordable housing units? And would the affordable housing trust, sorry, go on.
Is the questions what budget do we have to manage and deal with to offsetting that property?
Yes.
We basically have the $100,000 that
$121,000.
$121,000.
Technically, you have
121, yeah.
you have $880,000 because you have the unappropriated housing. But for this purpose, the amount of money that the town has for having affordable units on this property is really dependent on how much you want to spend.
But, yeah,
Yeah,
because I feel like.
Yeah.
Go on.
I mean, I for one would oppose subsidizing development on that site any more than we already have. Because of the small, I think we, when this is an argument or discussion we'd have for another day, but I think we need to look at economies of scale. I think we need to look at how to get as many houses up and what investment we should make. If we have another 200,000 that we could go to the CPC to request, but I personally, and I'm only one member of the committee, don't have an appetite for pouring much more money into this site. Demo is one thing. Having some, I think we're also doing some surveying and stuff. That's another thing. But put another $100,000 in to further subsidize affordable housing, I wouldn't support that.
Oh, I'm not sure if I can am I supposed to raise my hand or something?
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is I do see Kathy's point. My gut reaction is to hurry up and build something. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, through the chair, I mean, what's the pleasure of the board on this item? Should we, I guess I'll, float the RFP with an affordable option to town council and get their opinion of that. And then also asking the question of how to proceed if affordable is not an option.
Yeah, I would prefer that because that gives town council something to rule on. And if he says town council doesn't think it's possible, then we'll just take it out. Or we can vote to take it out anyway.
Okay.
But it gives us this is my opinion, this will be up for vote. And I think Jeannie probably disagrees. But it's something, it's like put it in there for the final draft. And then at our next meeting, which I think will have to go over to another meeting, we can vote to leave it in or take it out. But we'll have town council's ruling on it. Does that make sense to people?
I feel the same way because I'd like to know absolutely what we can and cannot do, how much we can, if we lose money on this project, then we know that, and if that's allowed, because I've heard some concerns about that. So I want to know what all our options are on the property before we write the RFP. I prefer that affordable housing is written as preference, but let's review it with the town council and answer those questions.
And just to clarify, no town has made money on an affordable housing project. So it's just mitigating how much you're spending to create those units.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much we're willing to lose, how much further.
Minimize the loss.
Well, isn't really
Expense.
losing money. Well,
Minimize expense.
that's what we're here for, to spend money on affordable housing, isn't it? It's not
Yeah, but-
losing.
No,
It's
no, but
using
it is, but Jeannie, it is. It's 250. Already we're $230,000 in. I mean, after the demo, at least 230 in to build 2 units. We could have probably done it cheaper ourselves. Now if we want to subsidize Habitat, they're talking about, I think, 1.1 million for, it's just as, that would be another, I think they'd be looking for about another, the way their model worked is that they were going to want the, I'm not going to get, because that was an old property, and again, I don't even know if it's feasible, but they depend on fundraising. They depend on the town providing money. And do we want to put another 100,000? Do we want to put another 200? Do we want to put another 300,000 in it? And I would say no. I would say that's an irresponsible way of spending money for affordable housing. I think we'd be better off looking at a place where we could put up 25 units, 30 units.
We don't have a place.
So just a question on the draft, Mike. I was just looking at it. I just can't find it right now. Did we put a maximum amount of units we would consider on the property?
No.
So it basically is open-ended. So if
Yeah.
someone wanted to put 8 units, because then the higher density, the less likely you need to have any more subsidizing.
So exactly.
If you had 4 You may have a mixture of either all affordable, or you may have a mixture of market and affordable to make a project work. That's where, Kathy, sometimes towns will put in more money to make sure that instead of, say, 2 affordable and 2 market, to make it all affordable. So some of it is sort of what we need to identify is some of the goals. Will we allow a mixture of affordable units and market rate to reduce the necessary subsidization from the town? So probably getting town council's opinion and then coming back on the next meeting to sort of go over not only town council's comments, but also what are the ground rules we want to play by? Maybe an important thing to sort of narrow down and finalize before, we are ready to publish.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a whole different conversation, because if we're trying to shoehorn 8 units into that site, we will end up, I think, with a 40B situation. We'll probably lose the support we have for affordable housing right now. So those are decisions that will have to be made at a different time. But I think right now, because it's my impression, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, we are going to be punting this to another meeting. And if we punt it to another meeting, to review, and we'll all have a chance to look at the final draft beforehand and, see what the town council thoughts are on it. Does that make sense to people?
Yes.
Jeannie?
I think you already know what my thoughts are, Kathy.
Oh, no, I mean, we're just talking about punting and getting the town council's opinion on what can be included in punting at the next meeting. We're not making any decision right now.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay. Any other discussion on this one? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the RFP for the Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan.
Kathy, I think as we last discussed, I don't have an RFP drafted as of yet, but I can easily put that together. I already have a scope and such. So I can make sure I have that document to the trust ahead of time for the next meeting for you to give you your final approval on it. But the only outstanding question was, and I'll gesture to Joe on this, which is we've gotten a quote from CMRPC. We're throwing a lot of work their way. They're very, very busy, I'm sure. Let's just see if I can account for us. Do we want to, so we've already solicited quotes from them on this. So RFP is not really the right word. RFQ is the term for this one. But do we, does the trust want me to shop this out to other consultants as well, or?
I think it'd be wise, because I think we're all very anxious to start moving in this action plan. And it's probably going to be, I don't know, in my mind, I'm saying 6 months, and that could be way too short. But if we don't have enough resources to be able to start the process, that just delays us further. So I'd like to think about the second half of 2024, where we have an action plan in place, and we're now starting to truly take actions that will yield to houses in affordable units. Janie's, rightly so, we want to do something and put up some buildings, but I think that action plan is critical. And if we need to go someplace else, we'll do a good job. You guys have to be able to judge that. Then I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, I'm not, I didn't mean to insinuate that CMRPC is can't or unwilling. They've expressed that they can and are willing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were short on resources.
No, I was just making excuses.
Oh.
Yeah, even that said, I don't think it's a bad idea just to see what else comes in. I mean, we might as well.
Okay.
Whatever, to sort of echo what Brian said, anything that moves it along quicker.
Well, in the meantime, I've already drafted essentially the scope as you all looked at, that was, what went to CPC for the request for the funding. So nothing's really going to change as far as just slapping a header on that, and calling it, the Affordable Housing Trust. And then I can shop that around, to other consultants, ahead of the next meeting. And, if I get additional quotes, I'll provide that to the trust at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be great to be able to see quotes at the next meeting.
Sure.
Anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. And I think the last item on the agenda was CMRPC credit hours, update on staffing and support.
So yeah, again, we have Jasifa on the line, from CMRPC. I spoke with her last week, I think it was, just about the regional housing coordinator position and obviously Upton's interest in fiscal year 2025, but also within the same, within the next agenda item was utilizing CMRPC credit hours to get us through the remainder of this fiscal year, and get some use for those credit hours for this trust purpose. But I had that conversation, Jasifa's here to if you want to fill in my gaps for me.
Yeah, so I think we're looking into using, I forgot what the exact term is, but we're going to be using those technical hours to fill in for this year. And then moving for 2025 for fiscal year, it's going to be, I believe, 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken, to start with. And then we're going to go from there per week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're going towards.
That was a discussion, obviously, Jasifa on the professional end of that, bringing in staffing. And then there's the discussion that needs to happen regarding budgeting for staff hours dedicated to this trust. And that's outside of, that's more administration, that's outside of CMRPC. I think I shot off an email today to Kenny about use of trust funds for administration. So I'm waiting to hear back. The concern about that was that, and Joe explained this to me this morning, which was a utilization of trust fund money for administrative staffing to this trust is potentially in conflict and potentially double dipping for the use of CPC money, which is restricted to 5% of all the CPC funds can be dedicated towards staffing. If they are already utilizing those funds for their own staffing, can this trust utilize money that was spent outside of that dedicated funds placed into this trust for their own staffing? So that's sort of a maze of accounting and math that we have to pose to get the right answer on that. To figure out.
We haven't used any money, have we? I mean, that's part of the challenge, isn't it? That we didn't allocate any money for staffing.
CPC has,
That's
Right.
correct.
but that's where I think, and this is what we have to check. I don't think there's a problem if we engage CMRPC to provide support,
Yeah.
because that's service. If we hire another administrative position, we're limited by the 5% for CPC funds.
Okay.
We don't have any other revenue coming in. If we had inclusionary zoning, and let's say we were receiving payments in lieu,
Yeah.
we could use that for administrative. We just wouldn't, we'd have to either back out hours out of Grace and then sort of fill that back in through general fund,
Okay.
or just fund it out of the general fund without touching CPC and affordable housing dollars. So it's sort of, that's sort of the overall question that we're also going to have those discussions as we go forward for preparing fiscal year 25's budget. That if CMRPC we want to engage with them for, say, the 4 hours a week, but we want additional staff administrative support, that we may need to just fund ourselves through the general budget.
And currently, we have some CPC funds, I mean, not CPCs, CMRPC hours, correct? The planning board
Yes.
had a surplus and,
CMRPC, yeah.
yes.
Credit.
CMRPC.
Is the 5% already fully used at this point in time from the revenue that comes in?
It's fully dedicated. Yes.
Well, they use 5%. Okay. What is it, $600,000? 800,000? Revenue?
But it only ends up being like 15,000.
Oh, 600. Yeah. Okay. But it's all accounted for.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty much it on that.
So what's going to happen like immediately? I know Grace is taking the minutes at this meeting.
Just our very next meeting, planning board, will be asking planning board to allow Affordable Housing Trust to utilize those CMRPC credit hours for the remainder of this fiscal year.
And that would go to Jessica or that would go to Grace?
No, that would go to Jasipa.
Jessica, I'm
Yeah, that
sorry.
would go to me.
Your name.
No,
yeah.
no worries. Worries.
Okay.
There's a question. So in fiscal 25, when we use the budgeted funds for CFA, what type of services do you provide? You see, are you the regional housing coordinator?
Yes,
So-
so I'm the regional housing coordinator. So right now, actually similar with 28 Hartford Avenue. We're working with something similar like that with Mendon, where we're trying to find technical support through a housing grant with Mendon right now. So we're doing something similar to them because they have a barn that they ended up, or it's like I think 5.5 acres that they bought, and we're trying to see if we can use the barn or what we're gonna do and try to have habitat in it. So something, or who's gonna be the bidders. So that's one thing that I'm doing there. Berlin right now, we ended up using some of their CPA fund to establish a down payment on program assistance for affordable housing units. So we can try to get more 40B properties in and try to reno 40B properties as well. Those are some of the things that we're doing. Also, I know, like, for example, with Shrewsbury, they're needing some technical support with their MBTA funding or the MBTA zoning. So I'm trying to help out them with their grant situation of it. Auburn, I'm helping them with their housing production plan. Berlin as well, helping them with their housing production plan and making sure we get some more public outcome and outreach. I know Upton just finished theirs, so I was talking to Mike about this, like what if we can maybe start like a story map and then maybe get some more public outreach that way would be great, because then people would know more about the Affordable Housing Trust and what's going on with that as well. Grafton, we're in the process of the housing production plan, so I've helped them out with that a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm kind of all around seeing what each and every single town needs. I know also with Grafton, I'm helping them with creating like an affordable housing trust guide. So let's say there's a new member that wants to come in and they're interested, kind of like how they can know about the trust and things along that line. So that's kind of a little bit of what I've been doing here and there, trying to figure out my role. My background comes from Cambridge Housing Authority. I was working there for a little bit, over 3 years. And then before then, I was also working in Bangladesh, and I was working as a housing planner there and helping them out with their Rohingya communities, because they had they have had more than 1 million refugees that ended up coming in. So that's a little bit of my background and what I've done. So
Thank you.
Can I just
you're
ask
welcome.
quick?
Well, the 12 hours or the fiscal 25, I'd like to make sure that we use those hours for technical services and not for administrative. That's my view.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
we can
we-
replace somehow administrative services and take better value from you see on those services.
Absolutely. We would only be using it for the professional services.
Yeah.
Just another question. I think it was Mendon, it might have been Shrewsbury, where you talked about using it to sort of, I don't know if it was buy down or subsidize or something, some of the affordable housing units, some of the units they had to become affordable.
Yeah, so with Mendon, they ended up buying, I think it's 75 Province Street. I forgot the exact number of it. Sorry. I'm really bad with numbers.
I am too,
So
but I will
they,
get
yeah,
along.
so they ended up, I think, they have that they bought, and there's a barn in it. So they're trying to figure out if they're gonna tear down the barn and make it housing units, or they're going to restore the barn and add more affordable housing units and going to work with Habitat for Humanity, or are they going to end up working for with what is it called, or they're going to have bidders in. So that's kind of what they're deciding on. But for them to decide on it, I know that the Mass Housing Partnership creates, there's a grant for technical assistance.
Mhm.
So I think that's around $50,000 that they're asking for there. And there's going to be technical assistance that's going to be provided for that land. So we can end up deciding in which route to take and how to go.
Okay.
So I'm kind of hearing that Upton's running into something similar. So just like figuring out the budgeting and everything like that, and that grant would be taking care of it and providing that technical assistance. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with Mendon. And I know Berlin is thinking about something similar, but they haven't bought the plot of land yet. So they are ending up taking they're gonna, I think, looking at like tax land or whatever it's called, and they're going to, I forgot what it's exactly called. Yeah, so they're looking into that, and then they're going to be working with Habitat as well. And so similar projects that these towns are doing, and you guys seem to be similar to these two towns. So
Mhm.
I think what the role ends up doing, which is great, is just the merger of seeing what we all can come up with as like a region for these different towns. So that's awesome, and that's great that way.
Okay. So that's the type of conversation we can start
Yeah.
with the existing credit hours. And
Exactly.
then we can sort of expand on it from there. Okay, cool.
Exactly. And then for the technical hours, we can even use, for example, I know Mendon ended up using some of it for like a GIS map that we are creating to add into the grant for Mass Partnership. So that will be awesome too if you all want to do it that way, because that's already kind of, so that would be awesome if we can maybe start a conversation that way and go from there.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
That was it. It was just items not reasonably expected by the chair is the next item.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at it. There's nothing not reasonably expected by me. Anybody have anything else you want to bring up before we schedule the next meeting and adjourn?
No.
Okay. So why don't
Oh,
we?
wait. Sorry, Kelly, can I just, for clarity, Michael, is CFA on board with us for fiscal 25, or that's still to be determined?
That is still to be determined, just because we basically have to enter into a formal contract with CMRPC in order to do that. But we've already, and Kathy, you've been CC'd on those emails as well, so that's where we're headed on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought that we were gonna work with her with the remaining CMRPC hours.
Yeah, and then, that was the second part to what I was gonna say, which is, at the planning board, in 17 minutes, when the planning board starts, we'll also have that conversation with the planning board about granting the remainder of the CMRPC credit hours to the trust for use of the remainder of this fiscal year.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and if you all want to have help with that housing grant, we can maybe get started with that. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just throwing that idea out there. And it's in a rolling basis. That's what I've learned too.
Oh,
So
okay. I was wondering.
yeah, so we're good. If we want to have this conversation further and maybe get started with that housing grant and just get some technical assistance to see what we can come up with for 28, not 82, 28 Hartford Avenue, sorry. Yeah, so let me
Yeah.
know. Definitely here to help on that.
Okay. So I'm looking at the agenda for the next meeting. The planning board is what? Are we meeting on when is the first planning board meeting in January? Is it the 2nd or the 9th?
Hopefully the 9th.
Okay. Can we do the next meeting, January 9th?
9th, yes.
At 5:30, and then hopefully we'll be able to finalize an RFP. We'll have heard back from council. We can discuss further, sort of the mass housing partnership opportunity and, how we want to structure that. And then we should have sort of updates on, the demo. We should have updates on, what the planning board's will is on the inclusionary zoning and accessory dwellings. And also the RFP for the Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan. So there'll be a lot, I think, that'll be in the next step so we can stop talking about it and start doing it. So does that work for people?
Yep.
Okay, so
That's
5:30 on January 9th. And does that sound reasonable to the town? Because right now we're saying, okay, we want you to have, everything set up for the AHT action plan. We want to have the RFP for 28 Hartford Avenue North done and reviewed and ready for presentation, so we can figure out exactly how we want to structure it. So does that work for you guys?
Yeah, I have my marching orders. I'll put things into motion likely tomorrow morning.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn?
Second?
Yeah, I'm seconded.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jessica.
folks.
Hi, guys.
Bye.